Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto News. And today we're covering Bitcoin, Melania Trump, the founder of FTX, some SEC news. We got a ton of juicy stuff, even some about the government, maybe a little bit about inflation. So it's a juicy episode, guys. Sit around, stick around, and make sure you press that like button if you enjoy the Daily Crypto News. And guys, it wouldn't be another day without another SEC delay. Because yes, guys, what they've done yet again is deny a Bitcoin ETF. It's the 50th time, it feels like. Well, I'm going to say they haven't really denied it straight at the bat. They've just delayed the decision. But as it currently stands, that is basically, hey, you filed an application. We're not making a choice on it yet because we cannot say yes. So instead of you filing it again, we're basically acting as if you've never filed it. And we'll come back to this a little bit later. Which again is officially not denial, but a delay. It isn't looking too prosperously. But let's keep our hopes up because a Bitcoin ETF at the end of the day would allow for a ton of institutional inflows into Bitcoin/crypto. Then again, a couple of crypto enthusiasts have put up the negative sides, which, for example, are that there's going to be a lot more manipulation and very quickly a lot more potentially negative regulation. We'll have to see about that though. Our second part right here is Bitcoin at $100,000. Can you already imagine it? I kind of can. Well, BTC at $100,000, or will the bubble get popped by the Fed? Here's what experts say. Well, right now, Bitcoin is just trading at about $46,000 or so. So from a certain perspective, $100,000 is still a little bit further into the future. But I think the majority of us think that it will happen this year, mostly from the perspective that inflation is such a killer right now. And many of the billionaires we've talked about in the last week or so are all trying to rush crypto. A lot of big guys, I'm not talking about size, I'm talking about big money, big wealth guys, are hoarding these cryptocurrencies, specifically the store of value Bitcoin, as they more than any of us understand the inherent risks of the dollar. And one of the guys we talked about recently was Ken Griffin. He is very well known for having some very expensive apartments around the world. I think he owns the most expensive New York City apartment, and I saw a list a couple days ago with him owning a lot of other properties as well around the world. Very high value guy. I'm going to say about $20 billion worth. We talked about him yesterday over on the channel right here. Was a very interesting episode. But yeah, they're basically hoarding crypto because they know the dollar is kind of in a scary point right now. And obviously, it's also something that you have the first mover advantage for still. Because if you're going into crypto as a billionaire, you're really one of the few, right? I mean, being a billionaire is a few, but one of the billionaires in crypto is really a few. And so you might have the first mover advantage to build some stuff in this area or really show your support. And that might kind of identify itself further and further as we go further into history for crypto's inception. Then again, guys, before we move on even further and move over into inflation, Bitcoin, the low connection, I want to quickly say, make sure you check out the link down below for Kasta. I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again. I think this crypto is going to pop off, and it's going to launch in a couple of hours from now. You have a couple of hours to claim your coins and whatnot. Make sure you just check it out. A link is down below. And as I've said before, be there or be squared. And you're going to regret it if you're not there to claim your tokens or get some tokens, as I honestly think it's easy, free money. Then again, just check the link down below for Bybit. Check it out for yourself because this is not financial advice. It's just my thoughts. And at the end of the day, I may be wrong, but I don't think so. All right, Bitcoin's inflation is now more than 3 times lower than the US dollars. That is interesting. So I'm not exactly sure what they were talking about from the get-go. I'm like, what are they talking about in terms of inflation? Because it's hard to measure, right? But what they've said, Bitcoin's position in the financial markets has shifted between a store of value and hedge of inflation. But the asset's deflationary status is coming into play compared to the United States dollar. With 90% of existing Bitcoin already in the supply, the cryptocurrency's inflation has hit a new low of 1.8%. Elsewhere, US inflation has continued to skyrocket, hitting 7% in 2021, the highest value since 1982. Therefore, when compared, Bitcoin stands out as a clear winner with about 3.7% times or 3.7 times lower inflation rate, according to latest data provided by Coinmetrics. So we're talking here about the Bitcoin supply and annual inflation rate. And so it's a percentage thing, right? Here it says Bitcoin annual inflation rate in red or pink yet, red. Let's call it red. And Bitcoin's current supply. But again, the only thing I was kind of wondering about, I guess, was whether or not they call out for it in percent or basically measured in dollars, right? If like the U.S. inflation in dollars is higher than Bitcoin's inflation in quote unquote dollars, or if they measure it in, for Bitcoin's coins and then percentage wise how much it increases. But I guess it's the latter. At least I'm assuming so. Right, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Here's why Bitcoin is beating the US dollar's inflation. You can kind of already guess that, I think, because there's halvings, obviously. Furthermore, the halving nature of Bitcoin means that the asset's inflation will likely drop further. Bitcoin's halving results in the asset issuance via block rewards that are cut into half with the next event set for May 2024. It's not really around the corner, but it's also not that far away anymore. Crazy how time flies, guys. Really, really crazy how time flies. We've talked a couple of times already about how the inflation in the U.S. is a killer and why a lot of these billionaires, as I said earlier, are moving over. But it's becoming more and more apparent as time moves on. And we're seeing those numbers just really stay staggering. All right, then Melania Trump, and this is actually really interesting if you ask me, stuns the Bitcoin community because she basically congratulated the Bitcoin community on the 13th birthday. It is widely reported that Bitcoin's market cap exceeds $1 trillion. Today marks the 13th birthday of Bitcoin Genesis block. Happy anniversary. Woohoo! Not sure exactly what else to say right there. I saw a couple of guys make some jokes and remarks about what if Melania actually becomes richer than Trump, right? Because of her adapting crypto all the way. That would be pretty funny. That would be a fun piece for the history books. That would be something I could laugh about with my peers. All right, moving on. Sam Bankman-Fried says a tidal wave of institutions could jump into crypto in 2022 if they get clear regulations. A long story short about this one is the truth. We already know it from any kind of point that I just bullocked up here. They're going to get in. I mean, right now we're waiting for a good part for these decisions by the SEC regarding ETF. And partially we're waiting for the Ripple v. SEC lawsuit, as we need some further clarity. Right now, the SEC is really saying there's clear rules, but there aren't. But this year is most likely going to go even more rapid than last year, and the next year will be even crazier than that, as there's already quite a lot of institutions like BlackRock, for example, which you guys know being the biggest investment fund in the world. He says, I've talked to a very large bank, every large investment bank, pension fund, they're all eyeing the sector. Many of them have started breaking ground on their activities in it, but it's just slow and takes time. It's also the truth, because I'm going to think about it from a legacy perspective of, hey, they've been doing one thing for the last 40 years. All of a sudden, switching everything you've ever known around, it's not an easy process. There's a lot of things in that nature where you just got to understand that these things take time, and these things are really big changes and really with really enormous consequences for the companies doing them. And so it's not really a bad thing that they take time, as long as we know they're coming in. Oh boy, am I freaking excited, guys. I am really hyped up. You guys didn't even know about it. I am hyped up to the core. Then Bitcoin, again, it's not acting well is what they're saying right here. Okay, so why is that? Well, apparently, along this article, since I wrote an article last week about Bitcoin was acting better than the ARK Innovation Fund, despite their strong correlation, the cryptocurrency began consolidating below its 200-day moving average. Breaking below 45,000 is a big yellow flag, while declining below 40,000 would be an even bigger yellow flag. MicroStrategy holds Bitcoin, therefore the stock price of this company does not reflect the prospects of its software business as much as the prospects of Bitcoin. Furthermore, management is issuing debt on more than one occasion to buy more Bitcoin. And I actually wanted to combine that here with a couple of articles I had open, but I kind of closed. And one of those was actually about Bitcoin whales buying right now. Let me quickly see if we can find it here. Let me see if we can find it open somewhere. I think we have it open. Maybe this is like the next video I'm going to make. Let's hope I have it open here. There we go. Buying the dip. Third largest Bitcoin whale adds 21 million worth of Bitcoin at 46.3 thousand. The reason I want to kind of bring this up, guys, is because as it currently stands, there's so many saying it's not doing well and whatnot, but there's also a majority of bigger whales right now hoarding it. And remember, if big whales hoard, that's not necessarily a bullish thing straight from the get-go, because if they let go of more than they hoard, the price is still going to go down, right? And obviously the price went down even further since that announcement was made. So what does it mean? Well, it means if some of these bigger wallets are all of a sudden accumulating Bitcoin, they usually only let go of Bitcoin at these higher prices, which basically means they don't think it's really that high of a price. Now, is it not acting well? You can definitely say that because the last couple of days have not been too good. But as I also described on the latest video over on my channel, which is not even in this list just quite yet, it's on there though. So if you check my channel out, you'll definitely find it. 0, my voice. Here on this video, if you go ahead and check that out, you'll also notice me talking about the W pattern in Bitcoin, which basically shows that at this point, we can actually go up quite significantly, and it's not necessarily looking bad. It just depends on your perspective. Longer term, Bitcoin is looking good, and in every shorter term, it's valid depending on how we move right now. If we break lower, then I'm going to say the 45K mark, we're in a really bit of a predicament. But as long as we stay above 45.5, 46,000, we're in a really good spot. And I don't think any government eventually is going to be able to ban it anyway. We've talked about this 1,001 times where, what can they do? They can really make it cumbersome. And I've also, I guess, seen Charles Hoskinson and a couple of people in that nature talk about it. Worst thing they can do is make it really annoying to hold. And what that will do is basically stagnate and make it slower for the Bitcoin growth to develop. And that can be done, for example, by having a 80% wealth tax on crypto. You know, every time you sell your crypto, you got to pay 80% tax because it's a riskier asset, yada, yada, yada. Or make it so that only real accredited investors with $15 million funds can actually trade it in the US. That type of stuff would definitely go against the people's wills, but they could do that, you know, and that's definitely something they can do along the lines of banning it, because for the rest, they cannot go out and say, hey, we don't want to have it here. Nah, it's too late for that. They've shown too much openness towards it, and they're too progressive. All they can do is say, well, we want to limit the impact of this crypto as it's a threat to the US dollar, and so they really make it just hard to be able to be used or anything along those lines. They can indeed also limit the use options if they really want to. Point being, can they ban it? No. They could just stagnate the growth significantly. But the question is, will they want to? Well, from a certain perspective, they kind of do, because people are already seeing Bitcoin as the inflation beater that's happening in the US, and obviously also what people should hold for if the US goes down, which basically shows little faith. And as the Bitcoin price goes higher, that faith keeps increasing. This article reads, crypto expert says US government will have to play along with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin investors claim that crypto has the ability to reach $100,000 in 2022. From another perspective, we can... I'm not sure if we can actually watch this. I'm not sure how the copyright works on Fox. I wanted to show you guys this, but now I'm thinking maybe we shouldn't actually do that. Yeah, all I wanted to say about it is they're going to basically be talking about Bitcoin mostly from a political perspective of what is smart. It's not about what they really want. It's just what is really smartest for the best position. And so from that perspective, I kind of think they're not going to ban it outright in the US. I don't think there's any chance of that. They might just make it more difficult if it turns out that's the best decision politically, right? If there's the majority of people in the US that are against it, most likely a couple of guys will come up and say, hey, we're really against it. But I think for the most amount of votes right now and everything, they're going to show a progressive stance towards Bitcoin, as I do think there's a lot of people who are interested in that. And most people that are against it are still kind of neutral if the political leader, I guess, is adaptive of it. I think they're going to be neutral. The people who are for it, though, are really for it and will not accept anything against, if you guys get my drift. All right, that was it for today's video. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Don't want to keep too much of you guys' time. I'm noticing I'm a little bit twitchy with my words right now, so I'm going to end this video off here. Hopefully you guys all enjoyed it. Make sure you follow, and adios amigos.